Hi guys, and welcome to today's 18th edition of SEMrush Toolbox. Today's episode is going to be about the PPC Keyword Tool, and today's guest is Amy Bishop, who is a PPC expert. So welcome to today's show, Amy. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, well, it's not obvious because loads of people won't know who I am, but I don't do pay-per-click. So it's interesting to get someone who does pay-per-click to share their insights on the tool today. Obviously, the tool is relatively easy to navigate, and I'll show everyone what the tool does. But Amy will be offering insights into how she uses the tool and various other bits of knowledge and experience that Amy will give us to help better our knowledge in the PPC market. We will also have questions and answers after the Amy's presentation. You can ask your questions on YouTube and we'll answer as many of those as we possibly can. We also do have a member of the SEMrush customer success team if you've got any questions about the tool specifically. So you can ask those questions in the YouTube chat as well if it's a product specific question, and the SEMrush guys will be more than happy to answer those questions. But back to you, Amy. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, what you do, how long you've done this stuff for, can you give the audience a bit of a introduction to yourself?
Sure. I've been in this space for just almost 10 years. I own my own consulting business now. It's called Cultivative. I do paid social and paid search, and I love to geek out about this kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Cool. 10 years. It's a long time.
No, I'm getting old.
And you're coming to India as well, right?
Yes, I am in December.
Actually, so I remember someone telling me before that you wanted to come to Israel,
Yes.
and then I seen your face on the lineup for India. So that should be a good event. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, likewise.
India. It should be fun, and hopefully it's warm for me. But so what else are you currently doing at the moment? Are you speaking at any other events?
Yeah, I have a couple of things coming up. I'm speaking at Brighton SEO next week. Really excited about that. Yeah. Oh, awesome. I've heard it's a great show. I'm speaking at SMX Advanced Europe. That's a couple weeks out, but really excited about that one too. They always, SMX Munich is always awesome. So I can only imagine how great SMX Advanced is going to be. And then after that, I'm speaking at International Search Summit in Barcelona. So that one's going to be a really good one too. So I'm just really excited. A lot of good stuff going on.
So are you like flying to and from
Yes.
America for all of these, or is it all done in one trip?
I'm going back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. I have a 3-year-old, so I want to be home as much as I can, but also at as many conferences as I can. So it's a good balance.
A good balance, yeah. No, I've got a young baby, and I try and take my kid to as many of these as I possibly can, but I can relate to it. You don't want to be away for too long.
Yeah.
Brighton should be really good next week if you've not been before. It's a great place to, I think half of the digital marketing community go there, so it's great for networking and stuff like that as well. So yeah, it's awesome. It's like Christmas for me in the SEO world. It's just like that time of year where you're like, yes, it's like a mini holiday. But yeah, great event as well. Great turnout and stuff like that. I spoke there last year and it was awesome, so I'm sure you'll love it. And there's loads of free beer as well, so that's also a bonus.
Yeah.
But enough about that. We have got a lot of people here sitting waiting to find out how to use this tool. So what I'm going to do is give you guys a quick 10-minute introduction to the tool, where all the basic buttons are, and then Amy will come in and give our presentation on everything else that she wants to demonstrate for you guys. So I'm going to start to share the screen just now and show you guys how the tool works. So where to find the tool first and foremost. That's always the part that we're always going to we get people going, where is the tool? So if you look at the advertising toolkit option, and under keyword research down at the bottom here, you will see the pay-per-click keyword tool. So if you click on that, it will give you a bunch of projects that you create. Now, I have already used the project as an example, but it's very simple and easy to set up a project. I just need to find the right tab. Give us a second. I've confused myself, so I'm going to go back out of this one and create a new project. So up here in the top right hand corner, you've got the new PPC Keyword Tool. Click on that and put in the project domain name. So it can be, I'll just put in test. Oh, geez, I'm clicking all over the place here. Testdomain.com and call the project whatever you want. I'll just call it Craig for just now and click create project. Now, to add keywords into the project, I'm going to shut this down as well. You can add them in manually. You can add them in from SEMrush, TXT files, CSV files, or XLS spreadsheets, whatever suits you. So you can import keywords into the tool. And then I'm going to go back to this screen and it will pull up this kind of dashboard for you once you've put in the keywords. Now, the tool is very simple and easy to use. Now, you can create different campaigns by clicking on this button here, and you can create different campaigns, using different databases, different countries and different cities. That's very simple and easy to do. But this campaign set up here, and I've put in a bunch of random keywords that I would like to rank for. And that's essentially very simple and easy to do. If I wanted to add more keywords, over on the right-hand side, you see the big green button, add keywords, and again, it will give me the manual option, merge words, SEMrush, or the various other files. And you can also change the match type to broad, phrase match, exact match, and modified broad match. You can change that to suit. And then you click on the update metrics button. If you're going to make changes and you want to update the information that comes on here, you would simply click update metrics, and that would change the metrics here in the various bits of information that are available. Now, we also do have advanced filters where you can do your filtering through the various keywords on there if you've got massive amounts of campaigns. So these are all bog standard parts of the tool. Now, the keywords are listed. You can have different groups on here as well. So it would change. You can set these up as different groups, and then it goes on to show you the volume, which is obviously the monthly search volume, the average cost per click, and the kind of competition level, which is a score that SEMrush bring out to give you an idea of how competitive that's going to be. So on top of obviously adding in your keywords here, which, as I say, are all listed there, you do have the option to add in negative keywords, which I'm sure many of you guys doing pay-per-click will know all about, putting your negative keywords in, which you can add in at group level or campaign level. And you can add these manually or through a TXT file to either group level or campaign level. You've also got cross-group negatives as well, which you can work on. Obviously, I don't have loads of campaigns set up. I've only got the default campaign set up, but there's nothing available in there just now, but you do have the functionality to be able to do that. And also, there's no recommendations or anything here, but the PPC Keyword Tool is a great tool if you want to build out campaigns and whatnot, and be able to get an idea of the volume, the competitiveness, and various other bits and bobs. So the tool is very simple and easy to use. That is pretty much all the functionality and everything that's there. You can, as I say, you can add in multiple filters and whatnot. But in terms of how you use that to your advantage, to get the advantage over your competitors, and stuff like that, what we will now do is get Amy to start sharing her screen, and she can then show us more advanced knowledge of the pay-per-click tool and the various other parts and various processes that she uses to make good campaigns and last 10 years in the business. So Amy, if you want to share your screen.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So today we're going to talk about how I like to leverage the SEMrush keyword tool in conjunction with some of the other tools as well, because I find that it's actually most powerful when we combine it with some of the other tools. So we've already talked about me a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and skip past this slide. That's not why we're here. And we're going to talk about one of the most common problems, which is a client that has a mature account and they want to drive more paid search volume. So typically it's a high performing account. They're looking for growth. They already have a healthy account. They have a wide variety of keywords. The budget isn't capped. They're still looking for more volume. Lead generation and or sales are typically driven through a variety of keyword themes, campaign types, and channels. Search performs really well for them. And it may seem like all of the bases are covered, but they're still looking for more. So what we're going to talk about today is how can we find that additional volume? And that's why I really like these tools, because they're great for uncovering even more keywords. So somebody had asked, what's the difference between this and the Google Keyword Tool? The Google Keyword Tool is great. I also use it for keyword research in conjunction with these to try to get as many ideas as possible. So the thing that I like to start with is identifying keyword gaps. And the best way that I find to do this is to go into the advertising toolkit, as Craig also showed. And you can do that from this drop down on the top left, just a little bit closer up to make sure that you guys can see it. If you just click in there, then on the left-hand navigation, you go to the keyword gap tool. Just a little bit closer here, you can see. So you'll click into that. It's going to take you to this tool. And I love this tool because it just has so many different applications. It's going to allow you to enter the different domains. Hopefully you can see my cursor. You can enter these different domains here, and you can actually compare the keywords that each domain has. And just as far as application, if it's a mature ad account and we're trying to find new keyword themes, this is a great way to do it. If competitors are increasing their impression share and you want to get a better sense of what they're doing well, if your SEO took a hit and you're trying to use paid search to bridge the gap in the meantime, to make sure that you have coverage on some of these keywords, or if you're trying to rank a new site, it's a great way to come up with different ideas of keywords that you could be targeting. So even though it's in the advertising toolkit, you can look at organic keywords or paid keywords. So you can compare either of those against different domains. So for the purposes of this first example, we're going to look at organic keywords, and we're going to look at how they compare against these different sites. These are not my clients. They're just example sites that many people are familiar with. So they're good for the example. First, I'm going to use the filters just to zoom in a little bit here so you can see my filters. I'm looking at what is famous footwear ranking better than a position 4 for, that Finish Line is ranking only greater than a position 10. So they're probably not even on the first page. And that would give Finish Line a good sense of what famous footwear is ranking really well for that maybe they aren't. So maybe they want to add those keywords to their paid search account so that they can make sure that they have really good coverage on those. In addition to that, you can get the list and you can sort by any of these different things that you want to. So in this case, I'm sorting by volume to try to get a sense of which keywords would be the highest impact for us. In addition to that, you can also set some different filters. I'm going to zoom in on this real quick. So you can look at all keywords of all domains. If you were looking at multiple different domains, it would be really helpful if you could just look at the first domain's keywords to see which ones are unique just to them, which ones are the common keywords, and then also which ones are the unique keywords. So for the purposes of this one, I'm looking at just the unique keywords, and then I'm looking at paid keywords for each domain. So now I'm trying to get a sense of what keywords do they have that we don't have that we might want to take a look at. We might want to export those and kind of go through those and see if those would be a good fit for us. So once you're ready to export, you can just check any of the boxes here, or if you want all of them, you can just check this box right here at the top. It'll select all of them. You can click the export button, and now you'll have a CSV file with all of these keywords in it that you can go through. And we will come back to that. Before we do that, though, we're going to look at finding even more keywords. So for this part, we're going to go into the Keyword Magic tool. It's also on the left-hand navigation. Zooming in here, it's just above the Keyword Gap tool that we were just in. So if you just click here, it's going to take you to this tool. And with this tool, what you're going to do is you're going to type in just one keyword, and then you'll select which country that you're doing keyword research for. If you have lists already built, you can choose the list that you want these to go into, or you can just create a new list, and then you'll click Search. So once we're in here, this is what it looks like. We have our keyword here. And what we can do with these buttons over here, just zooming in, we can choose if we want the keyword ideas to be a broad match ideas of this keyword, or if we want phrase match. If we picked phrase match, it would be phrases with this keyword in it. Exact match I don't use very much, but then related is going to be even broader ideas of just terms that are related to this particular keyword. So I typically use broad match, and it's just going to give us a lot of options that are similar to the term that we've added here. You can choose if you want all keywords or if you just want keywords that are in the form of questions. It depends on what you're doing the keyword research for and kind of what level of intent that you're looking for. But I will say, if you use this tool at all for content marketing, the questions can be a really great idea, a really great way to get ideas for different content that you could create, like blog posts and things like that. So that can be really valuable. And then you can also add filters. So you can specify if you want certain keywords to be included, and you can change the match type here to determine how they're included. In this case, you can also exclude keywords, and I've done that here just as an example. We don't want any keywords including wholesale, wholesaler, or bulk. As we all know, anytime you're doing keyword research, you get a chunk of keywords that are not relevant. So this is a good way just to try to pare down some of those keyword ideas that you might have gotten that you don't want. You can also filter based upon the word count or the volume. Sometimes I filter by volume just to try to make sure that we're only looking at keywords that have a sizable amount of volume, but we'll actually get to that later. We're going to do that in a different way for the purposes of this exercise, but you have a ton of different filters that you can use to try to qualify and make sure that you're getting the best keyword research for the types of terms that you're looking for, which is awesome. You can, again, also filter here based upon each of the different columns. Again, I like to sort by volume just to make sure that I have a good insight into which of the terms have the highest volume. And then once you're ready to actually move some of the keywords over, or you want to export keywords, you have the option of either selecting keywords or selecting all keywords, and you can export them. In this case, we're actually going to send them into another tool. So you can do that by clicking this little kind of line button with the plus sign here beside each keyword if you wanted to do it on an individual basis. Or I actually prefer to select the keywords that I want to move over. And then you can just click this little Add to KA button, which is Keyword Analyzer. So it's going to send all of those keywords over to the Keyword Analyzer tool. And then after you've sent the keywords over, we want to go to Keyword Analyzer too. So we just click this button, and it's going to take us over there. Now we're in the Keyword Analyzer tool. It's yet even another tool that can be super handy. We're not going to talk about it very much today just because we don't have a ton of time to go into it. But essentially, this tool would allow you to get greater insights into the keywords that you selected if you wanted to. But one of the reasons that I like this tool is because you can actually use it to then send your keyword research into the PPC Keyword Tool that Craig was talking about, which is what we're going to talk about next. So to do that, you would just select all of your keywords here, then you would click Send to Other Tools here, and you would click Send to the PPC Keyword Tool. And that's going to send all of these keywords that you've selected into that tool so that now we can use that tool. It's a great way to make use of the research that you've already done without having to export it and pull it back in. So after you click that button, it's going to give you the option to put it into a project if you've already created one. Likewise, if you already had campaigns created within your project, you could choose to send these right into a specific campaign. And then you could also choose to send it into a specific group, which basically functions as an ad group. But one of the reasons that I like the PPC Keyword Tool is that it will actually group things for you. So as opposed to sending things into one group, I would rather send it all into just the default campaign or a particular campaign if I've already created one, and then use the tool to group it. So I'll show you how we do all of that in the next steps. So now we're going to go into the PPC Keyword Tool, and it's going to help us to identify even more keywords and also start to organize. So it's really handy, has a lot of different functions. So this is what the PPC Keyword Tool looks like. Should look familiar because we just talked about it a few minutes ago with Craig. And what I like to do first when I come into this is I actually like to go add more keywords. So when you click this plus keyword button, as Craig mentioned, there are a ton of different options for how you can add keywords in. We're going to talk about most of these today. The first one that we're going to talk about is merge words. This is a really, really handy tool. So if you click plus keywords and then you click merge words, it's going to give you a ton of different keyword themes based upon what you plug into these boxes. So the way that this works is if you had certain combinations of words that you wanted to create, you could put each of those different qualifiers in here. So in this instance, these would be kind of our first words, these would be our middle words, and these would be our ending words. So it's going to come up with things like women's cross trainer shoes, or yellow cross trainer shoes, or yellow cross trainer sneakers, and so on and so forth. I used to do this in Excel. There's also another tool that will do this for you online, but the thing that it won't do, that SEMrush will do, is it won't group the keywords for you like SEMrush will. So when you're using this tool, make sure that you set the way that you want your keywords to be grouped. If you want to put them all into one group, you can select the group and specify that, or you can use their auto grouping where it will group it into ad group themes, or you can create groups where it's one keyword per group, which can be really handy too. So you can pick which of these that you want. And then once you're ready, you can just click merge words. And it's going to make this list of keywords over here for you. And then you'll want to make sure that you click add keywords at the bottom, and it's going to add all of those keywords into your account, which is really handy. So we're not done yet. We're going to still keep adding more keywords. So we'll click this plus keywords button again. Then we'll click SEMrush from the drop down here. And that's going to take us to this page. And this is going to give you another drop down with several little tools that can help you find more keywords as well. This one is the phrase report. So it's phrase match. What it's going to do is give us phrase match variations of the term that you plug in here. And then you can also choose the number of keywords that you want to receive from this tool. So it's kind of similar to the keyword magic tool. It doesn't have quite all of the features, but it can still be really handy as well. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that you choose your grouping here too. So once you have that all set, you can click add keywords, and then it's going to pull them all into the account. So for the next way to add keywords, if you had an export from the Google Keyword Tool, you could use the CSV file import. We're not going to walk through an example of that today, but I did want to mention this because the nice thing about the export from the Google Keyword Tool is that those could already be grouped. And when you pull something in here from a CSV file, it is going to ask you for the ad group and the campaign. So it needs to already be grouped in that file if you're going to upload something. But if you are using other tools, or if you have other forms of research, or the client is sending you keyword ideas and they're not grouped yet, that's okay. For that, we're going to use the manual import. So you would just click plus keywords, and then you would click the manual import. And in this instance, if you remember the export that we did from the keyword gap tool, we're going to highlight all of those, and then we're just going to paste them right in here. And after you click add, they'll show up down here. You want to remember to determine how you want those to be grouped. Then you can click add keywords. And then now that we have all of these keywords in the account, the next thing that I like to do is use the remove duplicates function. So we're going to get rid of any duplicate keywords that we have that way, which is really handy. Just kind of cleans things up a little bit. And then I also like to filter here. So I had talked about in the keyword magic tool that I sometimes like to filter things. Instead of filtering at each point in the research, I just find that after I bring all of the keyword research together, it's just easiest to filter it at the end and do it all at once. So this allows you to add a filter to say keywords that have volume of less than 49. It's actually going to be less than or equal to. So if you put 50 in here, less than 50, it's going to pull everything with 50 as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight all of these and delete them, because what I don't want to do is add a ton of keywords all at one time that just have a little bit of volume. I want to add keywords that are going to make a quick impact, and if they aren't working, we know quickly and we can remove them from the account, pause them, as opposed to adding a bunch of things at once that just have a little bit of volume that are going to be really slow to determine if they're working or not. Because even in the meantime, even if they're each just spending a little bit of money and kind of plugging along, that can have a big impact on our CPA, and we don't want that, at least not in a negative way. So anyway, I go through and I kind of remove anything with low volume. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to clean the keywords. And this is a really handy tool too. So you'll select all of your keywords. You'll go actions on the drop down, click clean keywords. It's going to give you this pop-up, and you have a ton of options here. So you can say, I want to clean all of the special characters except the letters and numbers, or I want to clean all numerals. If you wanted to remove articles or remove interjections, remove prepositions, remove conjunctions, or if you wanted to remove keywords that contain certain terms, you could do that too. So for the purposes of our example, we're going to clean anything with special characters. We're not going to remove things with numerals for this example because a lot of the shoes have numbers in their name, and we don't want to get rid of all of those keywords. But just for the purposes of this example, let's say I wanted to remove any keywords around men's shoes. Let's say I wanted to focus on women's shoes only. What you could do is you could just click this button and you'll type men's in here. And what I wanted to show you guys is that it's going to check this box besides this keyword that mentioned men's, but it's not going to check the boxes by women's, even though men's is part of the word women's. These keywords are safe because it's looking for whole words. So that's really handy, because some of the other tools that you would use, or even sometimes in Excel, if you're trying to remove keywords that contain a certain term, if it's part of another greater term, it might want to clean those out too, and we don't want that. So this is really helpful for that. The only thing that I would say is if you wanted to remove multiple words, you need to do that one at a time. So I find that sometimes there are actually easier ways to clean the account out for certain terms. So this is one of them. You have the option of searching here for things that will pull up different ad groups that you have. So for instance, if I wanted to focus only on fitness shoes, we would type in boots here, and we might want to get rid of all of these ad groups that are about boots. You can delete groups one by one by clicking on this trash can. Or you can do a little search here, and this search bar is for the keywords. And you could search for, let's say, sandals, because again, we're focusing only on tennis shoes. And then if you clicked all of those and you highlighted all of them and then clicked the actions drop down, you could click delete selected, and it's going to get rid of all of your keywords that are about sandals. Now, the only thing about that is that it's still going to leave the ad groups behind. If you delete out all of the keywords, there'll just be empty ad groups. So you want to make sure that you do clean up there too. That's really easy though. Over here by the campaign, you can just click the gearbox and you can click on the drop down, remove empty ad groups. And it's going to get rid of all of those groups for you that don't have any keywords within them at this time. So that's a quick and easy way to kind of clean up any terms that you know that you don't want. So now that we've done a cleanup, we want to make sure that we have all of the match types in the account that we want. So if you select all of the keywords, and then you click Add Match Type. It's again under the drop-down menu for actions. Then it's going to take you to this page, and you can either go ad group by ad group and choose the match types that you want, or you can just select up here which match types that you want. It's still going to keep whichever match type existed initially. So even though I don't have broad match selected here, a lot of the keyword research tools spit out broad match keywords. So I'm going to have to go through later and remove any of the regular broad match keywords that I don't want. But the nice thing is, after you click apply, if there was an exact match keyword, like for instance this one, it's not gonna add that one twice. It's only going to add whatever's missing from that ad group. So for instance, this one started with exact match, so it just added phrase and modified broad. Any that started with broad match, it's going to add all three that I told it to add. So you'll just click this green button at the bottom, and then you'll wind up with all of the keywords that you had wanted to add. So sometimes what we'll find is that from one of our other tools or from something that we forgot to group when we were doing research, we may wind up with a group that has a ton of keywords in it. Like for instance, this black aerobic shoes has 5,000 keywords in it. So that's a massive ad group, and we don't want that. So if you click into that group, then you can go to actions, and you actually have the option of updating that grouping by clicking here. The only thing that I would say is, depending on how you like your ad group set up, I typically like all three match types in one ad group. Some people like them in separate ad groups. If you want to have your match types in the same ad group, you would want to regroup things before you add the new match types. Otherwise, if you change it to one keyword per group, it's going to separate and really just do one keyword per group. So you're going to wind up with different match types in different groups, which for some people, that's what they want. For other people, that's not what they want. So it's totally up to you. And then after you've done that, it's super easy to add campaigns, as Craig also showed. You just click this Add Campaign button up here on the top left. You can create as many campaigns as you want. Excuse me. I recommend adding campaigns either that match your current account structure as it is, if these keywords are going into your existing campaigns, or of course you can create your new campaigns. And then what you can do once you have that is you can just drag and drop the groups into different campaigns. It's super simple and easy. And so once you've done all of that, all you have to do is export the list, export your existing keyword list from your account, run those up against each other to make sure that you don't have any duplicates or remove anything that already exists in the account. And then you can add your already structured ad groups to your existing campaigns or create your new campaigns. And then of course, step 5, profit. So it's super easy to use. It makes it really easy to get everything added into your account after you've done the keyword research. And it's really great for cleanup as well. So that's all I had for today.
Perfect, Amy. Sorry, it took me ages to get my little button sorted out there. So one thing before we go on to questions and answers, I've been asked, would you be okay with people asking questions about your methodology as well, or are you not comfortable with that? Yeah, happy with that. So
I am.
If you've got any questions about the methods that Amy uses or the thought process behind that, then feel free to ask that in the questions as well. But really insightful instructions there. And I think obviously when I'm demonstrating a tool, and obviously I'm trying to keep it very simple, it's good the way that you utilized the other tools to then show how this tool is actually good. Whereas, SEMrush are saying, like, only focus on the PPC Keyword Tool, only demonstrate that. So I think you've done a terrific job there, very insightful, and yeah, it was brilliant. So good job. But what we'll do is we have 25 minutes left, so we can ask Amy anything about methods, the tools, and anything else relating to pay-per-click. So make sure you get your questions in, and we'll go through them just now. So the first question is from Red Chalk Studio. Do you have any tips for regional keyword research? Because US is so broad and this person works with local businesses?
Yeah, that's tough. So I typically try to look first for things that have a lot of volume, because if they have a lot of volume nationwide, then most likely they have the best chance of having search volume locally too. I actually don't know with the Keyword Magic tool or the PPC Keyword Tool if you can go any more regionally than the US. So maybe one of the product specialists that's on the call might be able to answer that. But if you aren't sure, I would come up with the list of keywords, and then I would plug them into the Google Keyword Tool just to get kind of volume and estimates on a more regional level, to make sure that before you add them to the account that they aren't going to have no search volume.
I think as well, like I'm based in the UK, so it's obviously a different audience from the US, but I know that you definitely can become very, very regional. Here in the UK, it's down to, the UK split up into 4 countries, and then you've got all the cities. So that I know that can happen in other areas, but obviously the databases in America and stuff may differ. But I'm sure one of the product specialists will be able to answer that efficiently. Next question is from Joseph Hollack. So it says, in Amy's example, Amy brought in 123 keywords into the pay-per-click keyword tool. Is that a normal number for you? Or was that just a live example? And is there a best practice for how many keywords you would bring into the pay-per-click tool?
Joseph, I'm so glad that you asked this. You're my new best friend for asking this question. That was just for the live example. I wanted to just show that you could just choose certain keywords as opposed to having to import everything over. But typically for me, I'm going to start with as many keywords as I possibly can, and then I'm going to clean through them later. But as long as they have enough volume, I'm typically going to import over as many as I can, but then I'm going to go through the cleaning measures through the PPC Keyword Tool. And then depending on how many keywords that I wind up with at the very end, I usually will export them, and I'll just review them again manually in Excel, just to make sure that there's nothing wonky or that I overlooked. But typically I just kind of do as many as possible to try to get as much volume as I can. I don't think there's necessarily a best practice for how many that you would import over. It kind of just depends on how many that you want to sort through, depending on kind of what you're looking to do and what your budgets are, and if it's a new account. For newer accounts, I typically just start with the most high intent keywords, as opposed to starting with a small budget and thousands and thousands of keywords that are going to just really fragment that budget. But as far as starting out and kind of doing that keyword research, I like to know what all of my options are so that I can sort through those. But if you wanted to be really specific, you could filter more narrowly for things like volume and things like that. But a lot of times the high intent keywords may not have the most volume, so that gets a little bit dangerous. And that's why I like to have as many as possible, just to kind of scan through, at least initially. So it kind of depends, I guess, on if I'm adding to an existing account and trying to find all of the new volume and missing gaps that I didn't have before, or if I'm starting with a new account and I want to start with just the most high intent keywords that I could possibly have, on how I would kind of comb through those keywords.
Perfect. Next question is from Reza Rad. What is the added value using these tools compared to the Google AdWords Keyword Planner?
That's a good question. So I find that it's still valuable to use the Google Ads Keyword Planner as well. I typically will use both, but I just think having as many ideas as possible is valuable. So that's why I like to use multiple tools. But I also find that the SEMrush tool is typically a little bit more user-friendly. There's just a lot that you can do with it. There are a lot of features. And then also it's a great place to bring all of that research together. It's really easy to pull in your research from Google too. So it's a great way to collect all of that in one place.
Excellent answer. And remember, guys, we've still got 20 minutes left, so keep bashing the questions in there, and we'll get through as many of them as we possibly can. The next question we have is from Jules Webb. does the pay-per-click keyword tool mirror Google Ads in that you set up ad groups within campaigns?
So it's similar as far as exactly how they group them. I haven't done a one-to-one comparison to see if they're exactly the same, but they are very similar in the fact, and sort of like the way that they do it and the premise of it. But I don't know, I haven't actually taken the same group of keywords and plugged them into both to see how they would compare and if they would be exactly the same, but definitely similar.
Cool. And someone is asking, can you give any tips or advice in improving your Google AdWords quality score?
Yeah, so if you wanted to improve your Google Ads quality score, there's a couple different places that you could look. The first thing that I would do is I would approach this two ways. The first thing that I would do is there's a free script that you can get online. I don't remember who wrote it, but if you Google it, you'll find it. There's a script that you can plug in, and it will actually chart your quality score for you in a Google Sheet, which is really handy if you're trying to impact it, because you can really closely see what that trend looks like, so you can see if what you're doing is helping or not. But then I would actually look at the different keywords, and I would group them based upon their quality score in terms of where they're hurting, if it's the landing page, if it's the expected click-through rate, if it's relevance. And then what I would do is I would map out different plans for trying to improve each of those different pieces. So in some cases, you may want to look at all of these keywords that have a lower quality score because of the landing page, and maybe see if there's a better landing page that you could send that keyword to, or if there are updates that you can make to your landing page to make it a better experience. Similar with relevance. And then for click-through rate, there's a lot of things that you can do to try to improve your click-through rate with ads. The only thing that I would caution is that I view quality score as a health metric, not an ultimate KPI. So there are things that you could do in pursuit of a better quality score that could actually set you backward in terms of cost per conversion or conversion volume. So for instance, I've noticed that dynamic keyword insertion can work really well for improving the click-through rate, which then can improve your quality score. But if you have a higher click-through rate, but your conversion rate drops, it probably means that it's not setting up, it's not managing expectations very well for what they're going to find when they get through to the landing page. And because of that, then your conversion rate has dropped, your conversion volume has dropped, and your CPA is going up. Even if your quality score has improved, your account's not really in a better place. So I would just say, be a little bit careful in how hard you pursue quality score, and just make sure that it's not at the expense of other more valuable metrics. So everything that you do to try to improve quality score needs to be in context of also making sure that it's taking steps toward improving your ultimate goal as well.
Perfect. Great in-depth answer there. The next question is from, I'm not sure if it's Crumb Peter or Peter Crumb. I'm going to guess it's Peter Crumb. So, Amy, can you briefly talk about negative keywords using the SEMrush tool?
Yeah, so that's another really handy feature of the SEMrush tool that you don't so much find in the Google Keyword Tool. So you can, as you're going through the list of keywords, if you're combing through them, one of the things that we didn't show today, but I think hopefully is a given, is that you would want to scroll through the keywords as well and just make sure that everything looks good. But if you see something that sticks out, you can actually click it and you can add it as a negative. So then you can also start building your negative keyword list as you're going through this tool. But the other thing that you can do after you have all of your campaigns mapped out and all of your ad groups mapped out, there's a button at the kind of towards the top that is going to allow you to add cross-group negatives. So what that would allow you to do is it would allow you to add negatives to each of those groups to basically ensure that you're mapping your search queries to the correct ad group. So for instance, if you had, if you were selling dog toys, for instance, and one dog toy was like dog toy with treats, and then you had an ad group that was just general dog toys, you would want to make sure that anytime anybody searched anything having to do with dog toys that included treats, they went to the ad group that mentioned dog toys with treats, because it's going to also probably have an ad that mentions it. that's going to take you to the landing page that mentions it, versus just kind of the general ad group that's going to take you to a general ad and a general page. It's just not going to be as good of an experience. So that's what makes keyword mapping so important, and it makes it really easy to do it right through the tool.
Excellent. Next question is from Dr. Connie Evan. What is a good search? This is probably going to be one of these ones, it depends. But what is a good search volume for local campaigns based on national numbers?
Firstly, I want to say hi to Connie because I know Connie. Hi, Connie. But it is definitely an it depends question. It's really going to depend. Typically, I think what the good volume for a local campaign is going to be more kind of based upon how it compares to other keywords in that campaign. And it's going to really depend on your geography and the vertical that you're in. This is going to vary really widely. So for instance, if you're locally targeting New York City versus locally targeting Salem, Indiana, which is where I'm at, it's going to be so far off. In Salem, Indiana, it's going to be really, really small, and it's going to be hard to compare to national search volume averages or even other geographies of averages. So I would be more apt to measure how different keywords compare to each other within those geographies to determine what a good volume is versus comparing them to other geographies.
Perfect. And Sandesh is asking, what strategy can someone use for a lower budget so that they can get the best out of it?
That's a good question. So I think I actually wrote a blog post about this one time. I'll try to dig it up and tweet it out after this, and I'll tag SEMrush on it too so that you can check it out. But I would say with lower budgets, it's really important that you're really, really particular about the keywords that you're starting with. So instead of trying to target maybe like 5,000 or 10,000 keywords a day with a $10 budget per day, what's going to happen is that even if every keyword gets clicked like one time over the course of a month, you're going to spend a ton of money, but you may not have enough data to determine if any of those keywords are working yet to be able to pause things and pare things back. So I would first start with your most high intent terms, get those going. And then as you start to get a baseline of what's working and what's not working, you can start to pause things out and you can start to add new keywords in. And each time you add new keywords in, I would label them so that you can monitor them closely and see if they're working or if they're not working. And then you can pause things out and add things in again. I would also say that making sure that you add audiences as observation, and then also setting up campaigns like RLSA campaigns and remarketing campaigns can be a really good way to make sure that you're making the best use of that budget as well and capturing that low-hanging fruit. But starting with high intent terms for sure is a good way to make the best use of a low budget.
Perfect. Peter Crum is back asking another question. So it says, what is a good CTR specifically for the industrial and manufacturing related products?
Oh man, I would say it's really hard to say. It really depends on like the geography, and I honestly don't know industry averages off the top of my head. But I think that there are a few companies that have published some data. I think WordStream might have some industry average data. SEMrush may have it too. So those might be better places to look. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure though.
Yeah, I think that one's a really difficult one to answer, especially when you're talking about very specific industries and in very specific areas, because what's good for one city may be absolutely atrocious for another city. So yeah. I think it's a it depends answer, which I hate those answers, but sometimes you put it that way. But we have another question from Sophie Kovensky. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. Do you ever leverage Google Search Console queries as an inspiration for identifying high intent terms, phrases, and low hanging fruit?
Yes, That's a great place to get inspiration. It's a really, really great place. So I actually like to take those keywords and I like to drop them into other keyword tools to get other ideas similar to those too. But yeah, I think that that's a really great place. The only thing I would say is I would also kind of sometimes pare those back, because a lot of times the keywords that we're ranking well for aren't necessarily always keywords that we want to spend money on if we can avoid it. Not necessarily because we're ranking well on those, because I think that it's great to show an ad and have a high organic ranking, but just because a lot of times we can rank for things that are lower intent that we might want to clear out. But it's a great way, to your point, to find high intent searches that we can base some keyword research off of.
Perfect. JBM Marketing Solutions. Do you have, do you use the CPC rate from the keyword tool as a guide for manual bids if you use manual bids?
So depending on if the campaign is new or not, if it is new, sometimes yes. If it's not new, I usually look at the campaign average and the average of other keywords and kind of base it off of that.
Perfect. Next question is from Cable Bullet. Any tips for how to handle conversion windows that fall outside the 90-day max window that GA allows for?
That's tough. So one of the things that I like in Google Analytics is I like building audiences and pulling them into the audiences report. And that can be a great way of seeing how your top of funnel campaigns perform long-term, because it's going to show you the performance of that audience over time versus just looking at like the source medium report that's going to just show you last touch. But it really depends on how long that conversion window is to determine if the cookie pool of that audience is going to pull in the conversions that are happening later. That might work for you. But that's tricky. That's a tricky question. If you have a CRM, there are a lot of really great attribution tools that can help with things like that, but they're typically kind of costly. So that's the drawback there.
Cool. Perfect. Lots of questions and they're still coming in. So Crumb Peter or Peter Crumb, we've actually got a question for you. Is it Peter Crumb? I'm assuming we'd like to know the answer to that one. But Peter is asking, which ad type is best? Expanded ads, responsive ads, or SCAG?
Good question. So typically when people mention SCAG, they usually mean single keyword ad group. So that's typically more of an ad group structure versus an ad type. As far as single keyword ad groups and kind of the question about structure, I'll address that first. I like this post that Nava from WordStream just recently posted, and she talks about stags instead of scags, which is the way that I've used scags as well. And that is putting single themes into ad groups. So it's essentially one keyword phrase or string, but having all of the match types within one ad group. A lot of other people that do scags, they like to put different match types into different ad groups. I don't typically find that that is worthwhile unless there's a reason that you need to isolate a certain match type, in which case it's usually better to put it in its own campaign so that you can then control the settings and the budget for that particular keyword. So for instance, maybe your modified broad keyword or your broad keyword is spending way more and it's getting volume, but the CPA may be higher and it may be just cannibalizing all of the budget of that campaign. So if you wanted to separate it out, I would just take the extra step and separate it into its own campaign to control the budget and make sure that you could then also control the amount of budget that was going to all of the other keywords. But as far as putting things in their own ad group, especially with close variants and the way that keywords are moving, where things like exact match is really more like exact-ish match, I don't find a lot of value in putting them in their own ad group, so to speak. As far as ads, I still see the expanded text ads performing better than the responsive search ads. But as a best practice, I at least test the responded search ads. So from my discussions with Google reps, they usually recommend having at least 2 expanded and 1 responsive ad in each ad group. So I typically at least try to start with that. I'm not seeing great results with the responded ads just yet, but hopefully that will change. I have a feeling there will come a point where we won't have a choice. And so that's why I think it's important to go ahead and start testing the responded ads now to try to figure out what does work or what will work with those. Because I just have a feeling that at some point we're going to be forced to migrate to those.
Yeah, we're always forced to migrate into something.
Yes. Yes.
But talking about testing and stuff, Sophie Kovinsky is asking if you've got any recommendations for using SEMrush to test dynamic ads.
Oh man, I haven't done that. I don't know if one of the product specialists might have suggestions, but I haven't done that.
Good, honest answer. Good, honest answer.
Don't want to lead anyone astray.
I would have liked to have seen you trying to wing that one. That would have been quite, yeah, get it all wrong and stuff. But, yeah. So, what are the most common? So we're still waiting. Some questions coming in. What are the most common mistakes people are making, in your opinion, when you take over a campaign? What sort of stuff are you seeing over and over again?
Oh man, so many things. You know, it's funny. I still see a lot of campaigns that are just all regular broad match, or where we just see one campaign with all of the keywords in one ad group, or people don't make use of the extensions, or they're not making use of all of the different bid modifiers that we have access to for time of day or geography or device, not using audiences as observation in search campaigns, which is a great way to collect data. I still see people that aren't tracking conversions, which pains me. You name it, and I've seen it. I've also seen, keywords that are in accounts that just completely don't belong in that account, and I'm not sure how they got in there. Maybe it was just like a data dump of keywords when they built the campaign, but things that just aren't even relevant, have no intent. I once was in a campaign for a company that does sort of like a car wash solution. It's sort of like a wash and wax solution. And there were all kinds of keywords in there for furniture polish that I guess whoever built the account just either didn't know that these were brands for furniture polish instead of vehicle polish. But it's just crazy, the kinds of things that you see and that are spending money. That's the most painful thing.
Yeah, no one likes to spend money. Well,
no, I definitely don't. Not on that anyway.
yeah, certainly not in that. So another question. I'm not sure if you want to answer this one, but it's from Peter Crum again. What is the best bid strategy when you target the entire world?
Okay, that's a good question. Peter's coming in with the good questions today. So typically, there probably wouldn't be a situation where I had one campaign targeting the entire world. I would split that out and have geo-modified campaigns. So I would break those up a little bit just because there's so much that varies in different geographies as far as like dialect and the things that they care about and the way that they would be searching for things. One thing's going to work really well here that doesn't work at all over here. So I would typically segment all of those out. Even if you're doing that, though, there may be different bid strategies that work best in different areas, but I'll kind of tell you how I typically get to the bid strategy that I like to use. I always start with manual to try to get as much data as I can initially. And then I either will keep it on manual or I also like the target CPA bid strategy. Target CPA only works well if you have quite a bit of data, though. So I don't start with that out of the gate because I find that it squelches the volume if you try to. So I start with manual, collect some data, and then once I have enough data, I like to run an A/B test using their experiment tool. And I'll change the variant over to target CPA and see if it performs better. If it does, then we'll run with that. But if we find at any point or over time that conversions start to decrease or we start to get a lag, I'll switch it back to manual to make sure that we can start kind of collecting that data. Because the thing about an automated bid strategy is it's using its historical performance to try to make decisions off of. And if our historical performance, at least recently, isn't great, we don't want it making decisions off of that. So that's when I'll switch it back to manual.
Cool. And I'm going to give you one last question. I know we are out of time, but Jules Webb has asked, on the flip side, what is the best bid strategy when you're targeting a local area?
Good question. I would say the same thing. I would start with manual, especially if you don't have a lot of volume. I find that manual performs best because the automated bid strategies perform best when you have a lot of data. But if you have enough data, then I would consider switching it or testing target CPA. The bid strategy that I like the very least is max conversions. And it's tricky because most of us are like, I want the maximum number of conversions, so I'm going to use that one. But what I find is that it just skyrockets the CPCs. I mean, they just go crazy because it's almost like you're giving it the license of like, I will spend whatever I want. I just want conversions. So if you use that one, I typically recommend making sure that you set a bid cap so that you're not getting too crazy on the way that you're spending. But I typically find if I've tested it A/B against target CPA wins pretty much every time. So just be careful with that one, I guess, is my advice.
Perfect. Another great answer, Amy. Sadly, though, guys, we are out of time. But Amy, if anyone wants to catch up with you, catch you on social media, catch your website, whatever it may be, what's the best place for them to get you on?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm at linkedin.com. I think it's /in/Amy Bishop Marketing. So I'm pretty easy to find there. On Twitter, you can find me at Hoffman8, which is my maiden name. And then my website is cultivativemarketing.com.
Perfect. So thank you, everyone, for coming in. Very engaged audience today, lots of questions. And thank you, Amy, for taking the time to do an excellent presentation and answer all of those questions. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. And we will see you guys on the next SEMrush Toolbox webinar in a few weeks' time. See you soon.